programs we offer to our agents. First, we have our SafetyTek, our technology E&O insurance program, which we'll be discussing a little further here in the presentation. Next, we have Aspire A&E for architects and engineers, ArborGuard for marinas and boat dealers. Then we have our miscellaneous professional liability, which includes over 320 classes in MPL. Element, our green energy industry. Then we have our personal lines, which includes home, personal auto, boat, renters, high value home, just to name a few. Then of course we have our commercial lines, which includes BOP, work comp, commercial auto, bonds, and more. And then lastly, we have our surplus lines department, which for any risk that falls outside of our underwriting guidelines. All right, so now I'd like to pass the presentation over to our president, Dwight Stuckey, and he would like to go into further detail about AI and machine learning.
Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate it. It's really exciting to see so many people logged on and registered for AI. Who would have thought, right? So Stuckey and Company has insured technology for over 20 years. We've seen a ton of changes in the industry, you know, Y2K, data breach, HIPAA, cloud services, social media, you know, just to name a few. And we love what we do and are passionate about the industry that we serve. So we figured we'd, you know, go over some of the things that we see on a day-to-day basis and describe what we're seeing in AI. So I figured we'd just dive in and show what it is, why now, some examples of how it's used by people like Barbie and Coke and John Deere, and then end with Maggie going over some of the coverages that we have that fits the industry. You know, I think it's important to know about this stuff. You know, I guess on the underwriting side, we price it and underwrite it, and our carriers rely on us to do those things. But it's also to talk to you about it in a knowledgeable way, so we aren't fumbling around trying to understand it. So we wanted to go over, you know, again, why is AI and machine learning changing our lives today? What's changed? Understand the size of the market, some of the terminology, and understand how to insure it. So when I thought that, when I started thinking about it, like, you know, how to be most useful to our agents, two things came to mind. You know, my wife is in education, and she said that, you know, one of the things that's on the top of her mind and the Department of Education's mind is that it's been said that 60% of all jobs available to a child entering kindergarten today do not exist today. 60% of those things for kids don't even exist, and I don't think that's ever been the case, you know, throughout history. And so, you know, the market is today it's about a $21 billion market, which is huge, but by 2025, it is said it's going to grow to $190 billion. So by the time that kindergarten enters high school. You know, there's a professor out in Stanford. He's also an AI instructor on Coursera. His name is Andrew Ng. And he says that AI is the new electricity. You know, so 100 years ago, we didn't have electricity, or it wasn't readily available. But electricity transformed agriculture by the use of refrigeration, communication with the telegraph, manufacturing with electric motor. And, you know, AI is literally going to transform every industry. which is interesting. An example of that is Intel is focusing on 5 key areas. They are focusing on uncompromised performance, improved connectivity, battery life, and adaptable platforms you would expect. But their 5th is intelligent machines, AI and machine learning. So we're here really because we have a lot of data and we have a lot of computer performance power. And that's what AI and machine learning needs to make work. So, you know, kind of, I guess an example there is paper is turning into data. You know, the health records, as they were paper before, right? The doctors would write out, you know, their notes on paper. Now it's all data. I listened to the Apple presentation the other day, and they said that 1 trillion photos have been taken on iOS devices. That's stinking crazy. So anyway, just some of the things that are going around in the industry, some of the things we've seen, and it's just amazing. Here are some definitions. I won't go through them, but just to kind of put it out there, you know, artificial intelligence and machine learning are very similar. Some of the other terms are neural networks and deep learning. And it's either, you know, like supervised or unsupervised learning. In other words, given this, a picture, pick out this other thing, a dog or a cat or whatever. Pick out some characters on a page. I think it actually kind of started with, and I'll send a follow-up email and have a link to some of these things. But I think it's some of the original things that were that industry used AI for is character recognition, OCR, right? Optical character recognition, and the post office reading the zip code, even if it was printed in cursive or whatever. So it's really interesting. Some other terms, linear regression, there's a neural networks, support vector machines, recommender systems, some of those types of things. So if your clients are talking about some of those things, you know, you'll know that they mean that they're doing a lot of AI work. So this makes me dizzy, but it's all about the math. And these are things that are provable. You know, we wonder where it comes from, and it's certainly not Hollywood. Tyler and I were just talking about like Short Circuit and Johnny Five or War Games, some science fiction movies like Westworld back in the day, you know, the Yul Brynner days, and now you know, Westworld on HBO is a huge hit. But this is kind of what it looks like in mathematic terms, and then here's a vectorized example of it down below in a programming language called Octave. It's not just for math geeks anymore. It's going mainstream, right? Everybody's heard of IBM Watson. TensorFlow is a Google project, and Apple just released the 2nd version of their Core ML tool. So, you know, just to kind of give you an example, in the past, servers used machine learning. So, you know, they would offload the computational, you know, needed so much computational power, they would offload it to servers. In the past, the algorithm took 24 hours to train models based on 20,000 images. And now on a Mac, like a you know, stinking Mac or your computer that you have on your desk, you can train the same model in 18 minutes. So down from 24 hours to 18 minutes. Um, and, just to kind of drive that home a little bit, there's a lot of people out there studying it. And if you go to a crowdsourced site called Upwork, which I guess the old name was Odesk, but I did a search on Upwork, and I found over 100. I stopped looking after over 100 pages, 10 per page, on professionals that have the AI and machine learning as a specialty. So it is mainstream. So, the size of the market is just huge for AI, 190 billion by 2025, right? It's not just the pure technology companies anymore that are doing it. If you think that you're not a tech company or you don't use tech in business, you may not be in business much longer. And, it's going to be more true about AI just the way it's true about websites and social media and, apps and all of that stuff. Apple, again, I'm kind of an Apple guy, but Apple has paid over $100 billion to developers. And they say they have 20 million app developers around the world. So there's a ton of apps in the App Store. That's what this picture is. But Google Play has more. Google Play has 3.8 million apps. Apple has 2 million. Windows has 669,000. Amazon 430,000. And BlackBerry has 234,000 apps. It's staggering, and it just speaks to the opportunity in this space. So the class eligibility aligns with our eligibility here at Stuckey & Company under the SafetyTek program. These are literally all of the classes, the common SIC codes. And I purposely started with airports because, a lot of the times you don't think you really want to insure airports. That'd be very risky. But some of the things we do right, and then some we take a closer look at. But in all cases, we really ask what they do and who they do it for, and we align well. So AI and industry, I figured I'd look at a few examples and kind of go over a few examples. Using natural language processing, machine learning, and advanced analytics, Hello Barbie, of all people, listens and responds to a child. A microphone on Barbie's necklace records what is said and transmits it to the servers at Toy Talk. There, the recording is analyzed to determine the appropriate response from 8,000 lines of dialogue. Servers transmit the correct response back to Barbie in under a second, so she can respond to the child. Answers to questions such as what their favorite food is are stored so that it can be used in conversation later. Is that crazy that these things are happening in our lifetime? Coca-Cola, of course, a global market and extensive product list, right? More than 500 drink brands sold in more than 200 countries, make it the largest beverage company in the world. Not only does the company create a lot of data, it has embraced new technology and puts the data into practice to support new product development, capitalize on artificial intelligence bots, and even trailing augmented reality and bottling plants. And I see that a lot of training using like augmented reality, AR and VR. Global energy leader, BP, is at the forefront of realizing the opportunities big data and artificial intelligence has for the energy industry. They use the technology to drive new levels of performance improve the use of resources and safety and reliability of oil and gas production and refining. From sensors that relay the conditions at each site to using AI technology to improve operations, BP puts data at the fingertips of engineers, scientists, and decision makers to help drive high performance. So here's another one of somebody that you might have heard of, Experian. I think they just had a very large data breach. With approximately 3.6 petabytes of data about individuals around the world, credit reference agency Experian gets its extraordinary amount of data from marketing databases, transactional records, and public information records. They're actively embedding machine learning into their products to allow for quicker and more effective decision-making. And over time, the machines can learn to distinguish what data points are important from those that aren't. Insight extracted from the machines will allow Experian to optimize its processes. And that's kind of a financial industry, and one thing that I hear all of the time when going to carrier events is all the third-party data and all the things that they're doing internally at insurance companies. And just one more, maybe two more. Neuroscience is the inspiration and foundation for Google's DeepMind, creating a machine that can mimic the thought processes of our own brains. While DeepMind has successfully beaten humans at games, what's really intriguing are the possibilities for healthcare applications, such as reducing the time it takes to plan treatments and using machines to help diagnose ailments. And just one more that's really kind of cool, I think. The AI tech revolution has hit farming as well. And John Deere is giving data-driven analytical tools and automation into the hands of farmers. They acquired a company called Blue River Technology for its solution to use advanced machine learning algorithms to allow robots to make decisions based on visual data about whether or not a plant is a pest, to treat it with a pesticide or to kill it. The company already offers automated farm vehicles to plow and sow with pinpoint accuracy GPS systems in a farm site system that is designed to help agricultural decision making. So those are only 6 examples, but are just, I think, are way interesting. I'll also follow up with some of the links to some of the stuff. So that is kind of kind of what it is, and to define, and here's some some common terms. And let's turn it over to Maggie for some coverage.
You bet. Thanks, Dwight. Definitely some eye-opening statistics and definitely great technology information. I'm still learning. Dwight's kind of on the forefront and dives deep into some of the technology that's going on today, and I think it's fascinating. Something I want to point out, but we're going to start talking a little bit about coverage. A lot of carriers or brokers, they want to place the tech guys on a miscellaneous form. And honestly, that can really narrow the coverage that you're offering your tech guys. What you need to consider when you're looking at technology E&O is that probably a tech E&O form is better suited for a lot of these guys doing types of things that Dwight was talking about and really getting into algorithms and software programming and things like that. So when you want to look at E&O, you want to definitely look at a tech form, which is basically what the SafetyTek coverage is, offers broad definitions, broad coverages. We do actually have a particular endorsement that's a miscellaneous endorsement. So if we have something that's just a little bit offset from their tech service, we can add that as well, take a look at it. Aside from some of the things Dwight has talked about and covered today, we still maintain offering coverage for your tech people, industry offering database services, network services, which kind of revolves around the whole data breach scenarios that are happening, web services. You know, we have quite a few coverages in broad terms that will definitely cover most aspects of your tech clients that you might have. We've got several multiple insuring agreements that we've also tied in with our SafetyTek coverage. And I'm just going to go over, you know, a couple of them briefly, just to let you know I've done webinars on these in detail. So if you would like a copy of the webinar, a link, please let Dwight, myself, or Tyler know, and we can definitely shoot that over to you. The multiple insuring agreement we kind of created with the carrier that offers electronic media. So that covers our web guys that are creating content, content development, promotional material, and advertising activities done over the internet, whether it be on behalf of the insured or insured for others. We also have network operations security, which encompasses some of the cyber things, the privacy breaches, denial of service, personal information, and it also touches base on privacy regulations. We have kind of a broad definition because it doesn't narrow particular regulations, but it talks about federal, state, kind of encompasses all regulations that might be out there. Kind of a good thing to keep in mind when you're looking for coverage. The last and newest thing that we do have in our multiple insuring agreement is the cyber liability, which would cover notification expenses, the expense to hire a computer forensics to kind of look into where the breach had taken place, and of course offers crisis management services on that as well. And then also a few things, we've got the worldwide coverage, or also known as the policy territory, so it's anywhere in the world the policy coverage would apply. We have, again, kind of, I mentioned advertising and services. We have unauthorized use and unauthorized access. We also have, as I mentioned, broad definitions, which also include the broad definition of insured, which would be subcontractors, independent contractors, and we can even include subsidiaries that are listed on the application. And then we also have what we call the exclusive SafetyTek expansion endorsement, and we offer 7 coverages in that particular endorsement. We've got first dollar defense, innocent insured, the contractual liability, defense outside the limits, which is pretty big, telecommunication, management, and IT staffing. And just on a side note, I actually have a webinar coming up on July 20th where I will actually, June 20th, where I dig deep into each one of these coverages and give you some definitions and kind of go over that particular coverage in detail. So a brief description of what our SafetyTek coverage is.
Yeah, thank you, Maggie. So some of our values, right? Our carrier is A-rated, A+15 rated by AM Best. It's a Chubb today, and that changed from ACE. We have a low minimum premium. Some of these guys are independent contractors, and we'll see them that they'll have $30,000 worth of revenue. So we have some low minimum premiums, and we want as much eligibility as we can get as well. We want to quote it. We want to understand the exposure, identify the risk, and kind of verify the coverage, and we want to quote it for you, not decline it. And then we have a system called CoverCore that we can use. We have a micro-targeted, kind of a hyper-local lead campaign that we can give to you, where we give you as many leads as you can work, but we start with 50 and see how it's working for you. We have 2 emails, 2 letters, and 2 postcards that we send out to the customer that's co-branded to your agency, and it's a lot of fun. We have what's called a 151 promise. If you're not online quoting this coverage online, you can send it in, and if we get it in by 1, we get it out to you by 5, and by 5, out by 1 the next day, and that is for endorsements also. And if there's any issues, we always have a transparent underwriting, right? We want to let you know why we have concerns, if there's any questions, if there's any limitations or anything that can affect coverage. So that's it. That's what we had planned today for understanding, you know, AI and machine learning and how to insure it. And again, it's just really for us, it's what we love, it's what we're passionate about. We understand the exposure. We help you start the conversation with your customers, identify the risk, and verify coverage. And here are the contact us numbers. So let's see if we have any questions. Of course, we have 2 minutes. So we have what kind of product liability issues are covered with AI applications? So product liability is bodily injury and property damage. That's on the GL side. And we offer a contingent BI/PD coverage on the professional liability. So we kind of identify what risks are associated with that customer. And we have a skinny BOP that we're close to launching on, you know, that's part of the professional liability policy. And then we have other BOP type coverages that, you know, other BOP carriers that we can go to, both admitted and surplus lines. So we kind of just identify it and place it where it needs to be placed, but we have been able to place it. Do you have some of the links? And yeah, just we will be able to send out some of the training links. I'll even send out I mentioned Andrew Ning. I'll send out his Coursera link for any of the, you know, kind of geeky agents out there, if you share that interest with me. And I'll also send the examples and some historical videos that are kind of fun for AI. Here's one. What is Upwork? Upwork is a crowdsourced website, and I think you can go there. Just literally Upwork.com. So you can hire AI guys, database guys, you know, designers, and all that stuff. And I guess that was one more question. Do you have a product literature that we can send? And what can we send to them?
Oh, absolutely. We've got PDFs. We've got tons of links. I can, you know, make sure we get everything included in there, highlights.
So kind of your FAQ and the brochure and stuff like that.
We've got a few claims examples we can share. We also just received approval for a new layout where our agents can actually pass that on to their customers. That has some definitions and visual information that our marketing guys just worked on. So
perfect.
We got that approved, so that can go out too.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending and your interest, and thank you guys for presenting.
You bet, Dwight. You guys have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.